Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Table Talk. I'm your host, Jake Combs, and as we discussed last week, we have a big week ahead, or a big episode ahead of us this week. And as you may have noticed, we did not have an episode last week. Now, as you can see, this pile is so large, you literally can't even see me right now, or maybe at least not all of me. Now, keep in mind that all of the items that we're going to talk about today were sent by Games Workshop for the purpose of this video. As always, them doing so guarantees that we will talk about it and that we'll open it, look at it. Some reviews may be written, things like that, but it does not guarantee a specific opinion. Basically, this point forward, everything that will be said about these items is going to be my opinion alone. So, we're going to go ahead and take a look at Extremis first. Now, this is the one of the new starter boxes coming out since Dominion. It is using some of the same Cruel Boys models as well as some of the same Stormcast Eternals. But what makes this really stand out is the fact that in addition to the normal models that we see in the Dominion box already, we're also getting a bunch of pieces of terrain, one of which is currently exclusive to this set. Now, one of my favorite parts also about this is that we get another of the Swamp Caller Shamans and Pot Grots, which I actually have some plans for already. I'm actually going to be making some modifications to the head, as well as probably some modifications to the base. Definitely going to be making some changes to the Pot Grot as well, and they're going to be a necromancer of some sort. Probably going to end up on the same base together, basically counting as one model by the time we're done. Now, we're not going to spend a lot of time talking about the individual model sets for this box because we have covered those in the Dominion video already. This first sprue right here is our Hobgrots, and it looks like we've got basically the equivalent of 3 total sprues. Then this one is our character models, specifically the Swamp Caller Shaman, and we have the Lord Imperatant and his Griffhound. Now, I know I said this before, but the detail on these models is absolutely fantastic. I love the slimmer look for the new Stormcast Eternals. I have heard a lot of people comparing them to the Primaris Space Marines, and I can definitely see that, especially since the previous Stormcast Eternals were definitely much wider, much thicker built models as far as muscle-wise in comparison. These ones are a lot more lean, definitely look a lot more athletic, and I suspect that a big part of that is because of the new armor as far as the lore is concerned. Now, okay, so I was going to say that the flag does not look how I remember it, but when I flipped it over, it does look how I remembered it. I must not have actually paid much attention to the backside and just assumed that they were the same, and they are actually not. And then some of our Stormcast guys, specifically the Praetors, the guys carrying the halberds, those guys have some really awesome looking cloaks. And then this is our spear Cruel Boys, specifically called Gut Rippas. But again, they're great looking models, a lot of fun to build. I'm definitely looking forward to adding to our forces already. But now we get to what's new in this box. So most of this terrain is actually in the Realmscape expansion set. From what I understand, the only difference is a couple of the barricades that you find in here, or at least one barricade, and also the kind of orb-like building right here. I'm not sure exactly what that is called, or if it has any special rules for the Stormcast. I doubt it will have any special rules, at least until the Battletome comes out. It took me a minute to remember the name. Now we have what looks like a building under construction. With a little bit of work, you could also make this look like a total ruin. Some of the building pieces definitely look more ruinous, specifically these ones around the pillar, and those are going to be parts of the statues themselves. Now this box itself does come with one statue, and then the Realmscape expansion set comes with 2 of them. So I'm expecting to see 2 of these sprues there. Actually, now that I say that, we have a second sprue right here. So the picture on the box is actually a bit misleading because it only shows 1 of the statues, and we actually in fact have 2. So that means between the 2 we're going to have a total of 4 of those statues, which is going to look pretty awesome on the table, if I say so myself. And then let's take a look at these again, a little bit closer. Trying to see if they line up at all. They definitely do not. So these are 2 different buildings under construction. A lot of great detail. I love the kind of lion printing on the doors themselves, and both of them have matching doors in that regard. But you also have tools laying around where these are under construction. And then the sprue for the special building that is exclusive to this set. A lot of really cool details. I really like this kind of face. If you had some skill with green stuff, you could easily put this like at the mouth of like a water spout or something and have water come out of it, maybe into a fountain or something. So I definitely see potential for some customization, some kit bashing or something like that. But this piece itself is really cool looking, so I definitely want to build it as is myself. Now, if I were to get a second one of these boxes, I definitely would kit bash the second one and see what kind of construction I can build out of it, and try to make something more unique. Then we have our divider. Now with this one, with things packed a bit tighter than they were in the Dominion box, we did get some holes in it, so it's not as flashy as the Dominion box there. And now what's different between the Extremist box and the Dominion box is the Dominion box did not come with dice. So that's actually a big difference right there. So it seems that this one has more in mind for people that don't already play the game, that are less likely to have dice around as a starter for somebody like that. At least that's the assumption I'm making based on what we're seeing here. Then we have our pack of bases. And then here we have, let's see. So we have a miniature rule book for the core rules. This is basically going to be the rules without all the fluff. It might have a little bit of fluff in here. I'm just skimming through it. Okay, so it's just a compressed version of the rules. And then we have our battle scroll, or war scrolls rather. And then we have the Extremist edition book. Now this does have some lore about, and then also has information about building and painting, start playing, and kind of a quick tutorial on the game itself. Then we have the Extremis version of the assembly guide, including our 2 buildings. Now I'm going to go ahead and take a quick look here and see what our unique building is called. So it is the Nexus Siphon, and it looks like there's kind of like a floating orb that's drawing magic from the ground and then putting it up into the dome itself. Definitely that looks very cool once it's done. Definitely looking forward to getting those painted. And then for the Guardian Idol, which is those are the statues. Okay, that's cool. There's actually 2 different heads that you can do. There's the more human face, and then there's actually a skeleton face. So if you wanted like kind of a more like Realm of Shaiish look to it, you would definitely do the skull. Gur or Azure or something like that, then the more human face would definitely be more appropriate there. Or it could be either or, kind of in defiance of that realm itself. So definitely some options there. Because of the fact that we do have 2 of each, I'm going to do, or I'm sorry, 4 of that statue. I'm going to go ahead and do 2 of each. And then we have 2 rules reference that will help new players. Basically, each person would get one of these and then be able to refer to them more quickly. So definitely like the customization options on the statues. That was actually a surprise because I did not see anything like that in the Warhammer community page. Now, of course, I am also not the most observant. You can just ask my wife. She will tell you that. So we also have our rulers. I don't believe Dominion came with rulers either. I don't remember seeing those. And then we have 2 play mats. I suspect it's going to be one board itself that's double-sided. So we're going to go ahead and open it and find out. Whoa, sorry about that. My hand caught the cord. All right, quick look to make sure we're still pointing to the right place. Close enough, okay. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and open this up. So yeah, as I suspected, it is a single board that is double-sided. One side is clearly a swamp, which would be more in line with the Cruel Boys if they were playing on their home turf. And then the other side is kind of a red sand, kind of more of a Mars look to it. But definitely very cool. You can see some of the rubble. There's skulls and stuff in there as well. Definitely a lot of great attention to detail. Alright, we're going to go ahead and put everything back in here. Now, price-wise, from what I remember, this is very similar to the pricing for Dominion. Now the big difference here is with Dominion you had the some more of the Cruel Boys themselves, as well as the big boss that was on that kind of monstrous mount, and then you also had a couple more Stormcast characters. So definitely some good options there with those other models, but this one does come with quite a bit of terrain. Now, personally, given the two, it's hard to say which one is probably the better set, because personally I need a lot more terrain than I need additional models, because I have a ton of models that I still haven't put together for the Stormcast. But with Cruel Boys being a new faction, definitely want to get more models to go towards that army. So honestly, it's a complete toss-up for me, because I love the terrain, I love the additional models, definitely need more of each, but the big character models for both sides are definitely huge draws for the Dominion box. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and go with the next one on top. Actually, scratch that. We're gonna go to the Realmscape expansion set, specifically Extremist edition. Now, from what we already saw, this set does not, or that the Extremist box did not have the barricades. All right, there we go. So we do have our assembly guide. This one's definitely much thinner because it doesn't include the actual models for playing the game. Now, as we assumed, there are two of the statue sprue. And two of the building sprues. And it actually looks like I was wrong, because I'm seeing the barricades sitting here, and those pieces were actually on the other sprue, and I just thought they were part of the building. And then this also comes with a board. This one actually folds smaller than the other one, but it does appear to be the same print. So the same two lands as well. Now, if you get the Extremist set, I definitely don't recommend picking up the Realmscape expansion set, unless, of course, you just want more of everything. Like if you want to do two of the different two sets of the statues, as well as additional buildings, then this is definitely going to be a great add-on for you. But if you just want one of each, then and you get the Extremist, you do not need this set whatsoever. Now I'm actually kind of surprised that there's nothing unique here, and that the unique terrain is actually in the Extremis alone. So definitely surprised there, but it's definitely a very cool set. Now, as far as dollar value, I want to say that I saw that this was going to be somewhere between 80 and maybe 120, but it is not the entire Extremis terrain pack. All right, now these three boxes were previewed at the same time. Now, these are all items that have been released in the past, but they are basically being repackaged now. As you can see, they're in white boxes. I don't believe this is going to be the final packaging for this, for these re-releases, because with our new style of packaging that we got with Dominion and Extremis, I expect that they're going to be doing new packaging for these as well. to match that theme. Now these came to me in white. I suspect probably more to do with the shortages that are happening all over the UK specifically. But the first one we're going to open up is the Pen and Brawl engine. Now, from what I've read, this is the first time that this has actually been released by itself. And so we have our literally 3-page assembly guide. Now, this model is one of the more complex, at least visually, out there. And I mean, we only have 2 sprues with a lot of detail on them. But there's a lot of gaps where you'd have to, you know, kind of maneuver your brush around. So my plan is, when doing this, that I'm actually going to do it in stages. So once get certain pieces glued together, and then prime everything, paint everything, and then glue the rest together. So that way you can get every detail, because I suspect that if you put the entire thing together, you're going to miss some details that you'll be able to see that are much more difficult to paint. So definitely recommend doing it in stages instead of full assembly first. But most models, and most terrain for that matter, you typically can do full assembly and then paint all in one go. Now, these other 2 were, again, announced at the same time. And these are essentially endless spells. So we have Forbidden Power spells, and then we have Malign Sorcery spells. Now, personally, before receiving these 2 boxes, I have never used an endless spell. Really ever. Not even in any of the video games that include endless spells. So let's see. So this one with Malign Sorcery, we have quite a few spells here that make up pretty much a majority of the ones that get used regularly, including this guy, which the first time I saw it was about the time that COVID started happening, and a lot of people painted theirs to kind of look like the coronavirus itself under a microscope. And I definitely like some of these other ones that they have here, like the swinging axe, this flaming skull, the flaming kind of fanged maw, things like that. But it looks like it's going to make a total of 13 miniatures from what I can see. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 17. Okay, so 17, so I'm guessing 13 total spells then. But definitely a lot of really cool stuff there. Looking at this, I'm guessing these are probably going to be some sort of supports, probably for our kind of Doom Ball looking thing. Now, with these spells, as this is going to be my first time ever actually doing never-ending spells, what we're going to end up doing is I'm actually going to take some time, build them, play with them, see how they work, see what I like, dislike about them, and we're going to basically write an article that covers basically the whole gambit of using them, especially with the new General's Handbook rules. So comparing those to maybe the rules of the past, if we can get a hold of some of those. But one thing I absolutely love about these is just how much detail is just literally on everything. I mean, this box itself is huge. Like the Never-Ending Gravetide is ginormous. I was expecting, something maybe half the size, and looking at the pictures, and this thing is huge. And I could see why so many people built their own to be used in Curse City instead of using this, just because, I mean, this will take up the entire tile itself that it's on, and just looks entirely badass. Definitely looking forward to painting these guys, especially some of the more flame type spells. And then our last sprue is just the bases for them. But I mean, detail alone, these are fantastic and are going to be a lot of fun to paint. I mean, some of these are definitely going to give a challenge, especially just with all that detail. And me painting quite a bit, I always enjoy something that's going to challenge my skills and make things a bit interesting for me. So definitely looking forward to getting started with these. And then lastly, our forbidden spells. Now, these ones, again, keep in mind, I am just speculating here because I don't know anything about using them, because I've never tried. I've never proxied never-ending spells. But with these never-ending spells, I mean, visually, at least for 3 of them, I could see using them for not really never-ending spells, but really some special like terrain or model conversions that you might want to do. Like these 2 right here, I mean, they almost look like they're creating a bridge out of bone and some sort of rotting meat. That's the Soul Scream Bridge. So I suspect that like you would summon that basically on 2 halves of like maybe a gap, and then be able to walk across it to get to the other side. Again, pure speculation. I have no idea how these work. And also, it's not listed here, but we also have these kind of pyramids with kind of like a smoke or electricity go passing between them, which is definitely very cool looking. I wonder if they are just part of the sprue and intended for different models, because even in the assembly guide, they're not included in there, which is very interesting. I'd love to find out exactly what they're meant for, but there is so much detail on these. These are definitely going to be a lot of fun to paint. Now, with the bases for those bridges, I definitely am going to recommend doing these bases in stages. So do the bases and then do these and then put it all together. So that way you can actually get all those details, especially since there's going to be more than enough of a gap that you're going to be able to see those details there. But definitely some really cool stuff. And now these little pyramid things really have me interested, because I have no idea what they're for. I suspect that the original box that these came in, those were part of something else. That's just not included here. Whatever that could be, I have no idea. But definitely some very cool stuff. Like I said, I'm looking forward to giving these a try, getting some paint on them, and testing them out, seeing which which spells I like the best. Understanding how they work and getting them going. It's definitely going to be a trial for sure, but it's definitely going to be a lot of fun on the hobby side for me. So stay tuned for that. I suspect that based on my normal speed for writing, playing, building, painting, all of that, it's probably going to be a couple months before we see that article come through, but it will be coming. So something to watch out for. But that's it for tonight. From what I understand, we do have some other items on the way that we will be discussing next week. So we'll stand by for that. But if not by then, I should have some things primed and ready to paint just in case those don't come in yet, or if we're before the embargo dates. So have to look into that as well. But again, that's it for tonight. Thank you guys for watching, and as always, you have a great night. Thank you.